Well, good afternoon. This is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred. Really glad you could join me today out here in the vegetable garden. It's a beautiful early spring day here in Pennsylvania, Zone 6. And I love this time of year. You know, it's a time of springtime and it's a time of renewal and rebirth for the earth. You know, everything comes alive again. You know, the birds start chirping, and so it's just a beautiful time of the year, especially being out in the garden. Well, anyhow, today I wanted to share with you some tips and ideas on how you can direct sow your purple top white globe turnips in your vegetable garden. So thanks for joining me today. So direct sowing seeds in the garden is something really easy to do. You know, and these purple top white globe turnips are one of our favorites. You know, my wife and I, being we're plant-based, we just love our vegetables. But we like using these in our soups, and they're just really tasty. But you know, behind every seed pack, they do give some helpful information here. It says purple top white globe turnips is an outstanding all-purpose round variety reaching 5 inches in diameter at harvest time. Excellent fresh from the garden, pickled or steamed. The young leaves or tops of the turnip can be cooked as greens or added to stir fries or soups. For a fall harvest, sow seeds in midsummer. It says here planting depth 1/4 to a 1/2 inch. I generally like to sow my seeds anywhere from at least a 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And then you can thin these to about 2 to 4 inches. And then they like full sun. You know, anything that has a fruit or a root, you know, like a turnip here or a potato or a carrot or melons or tomatoes, they all like about 8 hours of sunlight. You know, the more the better, as I always say. And with leafy greens, you know, you can get away with 4 to 6 hours of sunlight. And then it says direct sow these after danger of frost, but I'm going to be planting my turnips underneath a piece of my row cover, which is going to help keep the soil warm. And then maturity is 55 days for these. And this is also a Livingston Seed company where I got these. I got these from a local Ace hardware store, and the price here was $1.69. So anyhow, let me show you where we're going to be planting these today. And so I'm going to be planting or direct sowing these seeds right there in that bed right there. So let's head on over there through the arbor. And so I have here 3 4-foot by 32-foot raised garden beds, and I have them divided into 4 8-foot sections. And so right here is where I'm going to be direct sowing these turnip seeds right here in this garden bed. So I'm going to be direct sowing these in my composted leaf mulch that's amended with topsoil. And you know, every season I top off my beds with 2 to 3 inches of my composted leaf mulch that I end up buying them that locally from Barnside Farms. I get anywhere from 5 to 10 yards, and I pay about $30 a yard and around $25 for delivery. But what's nice, it's certified weed free. And so I hardly have any weeding to do. And I also get it amended with topsoil, because the topsoil adds nice minerals to the soil. And then I also added my alfalfa pellets to the soil, and then some soy meal, because that's a nice organic, slow release fertilizer that adds some good nutrients to your soils. Because you know, every year your plants take up the nutrients from the soil, so it's always a good idea to replenish your soil every year. And so I have my garden fork here that you may have seen me use before, but you know, you just want to work through your soil, make sure it's nice and loose. You know, you want your root system to reach far and wide. That way it'll take up more nutrients and take up more nutrients, therefore resulting in a larger, healthier plant. And so just work through your soil. You can also turn your fork the other way, which is good. But you can see how nice and easy this goes in. You want to make sure you have a nice fine soil here whenever you direct sow some seeds in the garden. And then you can just take the back of the fork here and level it off. I'm going to be planting about 2 5-foot rows of these turnip seeds here. And so I just take the corner of my hoe here, and I'm going to come back about 6 inches and make a furrow, and then maybe come back another 12 inches because these plants will get pretty wide. And so I'm just going to make another furrow right here. And you want to make sure that there's no big clumps in your soil here. You want your seed beds or seeds to make good contact with the soil. You can even get your fingers and run it down the row if you have to, the furrow. And then I have the seeds here in my pocket. And I just make a V here. You always get plenty of turnip seeds in here. And then I would just gently, once you develop a rhythm, drop them in every couple inches. Direct sowing seeds out in your garden is something really easy to do, so let me encourage you to give it a try. You know, gardening's always it's a big learning curve, full of trials and errors, I always tell people. And so let me just put some in over here. It's always good to have a little extra seed because not everyone's going to germinate. And then I just take your hand and push the dirt back over the seed. Again, so the seed's buried at least a ½ inch deep. And then you can get your hand and just tamp it down nice and light. Firm the soil up a little bit. You can also mark the end of your rows. Sometimes I'll take just a couple pebbles and from my garden here, from my pathways, and mark each end. And then let me finish firming up that soil. And then I'm going to grab a remnant piece of my row cover and cover this bed here. And so I have here like a 2-foot by 5 or 6 foot piece of my spun bonded polyester, and I'm just going to simply cover these, put a couple brick on each end. You know, these will also hold in the soil moisture, which is really nice. It keeps those seeds nice and moist. You want to make sure you weigh down these covers. You get some high winds and you don't want them blowing around. And then I'm going to get my watering can and water these rows in real quick. But you really definitely want to make sure your seeds don't dry out. You want to keep the seed bed nice and moist, especially during the germination period. And these are going to require here, or get at least 8 hours of sunlight during the day. And so we're really looking forward to having some of these turnips for our soup and other uses around the kitchen. And so anyhow, I just want to thank you for joining me today out here in the vegetable garden. It's always a fun place to be. You know, it's peaceful, it's relaxing, it's therapeutic during, doing this gardening. And so if you're a gardener, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyhow, I hope this video is able to give you some tips and ideas on how you can direct sow your turnips in your garden. And if you have any questions or comments about this video, feel free to leave them in the section below. And you can also visit us at plantsmartliving.com. And there you can learn more about gardening and how you can reclaim your health by adopting a whole food, plant-based, vegan lifestyle. So anyhow, I hope you have a wonderful day today. So until next time, this is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred.